There's no such thing as right and wrong. It is the spiritual abuser's most favored term, one of their most favored philosophies. This is because spiritual abusers don't just abuse you, they abuse everything in their life. Objects, people, videos, information, philosophies, religion, spirituality, abuse, abnormal use, misuse is another term for abuse. And so when the spiritual narcissist abuses spirituality, they use spiritual concepts, such as there's no such thing as right and wrong, to validate their ego, their actions, their behavior, to confirm that there's nothing wrong with their behavior. But to clear this up, there is such thing as right and wrong. On a higher spiritual level, this teaching, when coming from a place of pure intention, is meant to show you that you do not have to stress over decisions. That whatever decision you make will teach you something. And therefore that decision was right because it taught you something. And so it's intended to create this sense of empowerment that we don't have to add so much stress and anxiety to the process of making decisions. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's a beautiful teaching. And then there's all these distorted misinterpretations that we may have of them. On a higher level, there is such thing as wrong following this philosophy. Anything that prevents you from learning and growing is wrong. Because if there is no lesson, it is a mistake. If there is no lesson, it is a mistake. It's wrong. And narcissistic consciousness, most of their behaviors are mistakes. Wrong. The way in which they control and abuse life prevents them from learning and growing. They control and abuse others to prevent them from learning and growing. And that's a mistake. So there is such thing as right and wrong. Where the use of this term becomes abuse is when we use it to dismiss people, to avoid connection, to avoid accountability. Narcissists love philosophy talk like this because it allows them to manipulate you in very confusing ways, spiritual narcissists. And then hold their superiority complex. It's literally like the creme de la crop for them. When they do something wrong and you call them out, they can be like, I don't want to embody it. They'll be like, there's no such thing as right or wrong. And then they're literally feeling like they're superior to you as they're telling you this. And they're avoiding accountability. And they're convincing themselves that they've done no wrong. And that they're smarter than you. And that, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. You just need to learn from me. You just have so much evolution you need to go through. That kind of energy. You're just lower than me. Let me teach you. It's giving me the heebie-jeebies. Okay, so that's how spiritual narcissists operate, right? That's why it's the cream de la crop, because there's so many rewards for it. And it's not a reward in the sense of like what a healthy person thinks a reward is. It's just a behavior that allows them to stay the same. They must continuously convince themselves they're superior. They're smarter than you. They're needed by you. They need to save you in order to sustain their way of consciousness. Evolving out of narcissistic consciousness isn't that difficult. It's almost like more difficult to get into it. So, there is such thing as right and wrong. And the problem is that people abuse these terms for their own control. Because that's all control really is. Preventing growth. Preventing learning. And that's a mistake. You see, when you let go of control, you begin to take right action. Right action is action that actually gets you where you want to go. That actually creates desired results. Narcissists are like masters of wrong action. Masters of wrong action. Yeah. And that's when you desire something, but the way that you go about it is completely wrong to get there. And this is due to programming in society. People in power who leave out details of how this reality works. Coercion by people who want to benefit from those who take wrong action. But right action is the action that allows you to achieve your desired result. And right action is taken through freedom. Freedom. So there is such thing as right and wrong. And honestly, from a more like logical perspective, we need to believe in right and wrong to exist in this world, right? That's how we have relationship, right? There's things we won't do to sabotage our relationship. Things we think are wrong, right? To me, I think harming people is wrong. So I won't do it. Right? But to someone who wants to harm people, they have to believe that there's no such thing as right and wrong. Because then they don't feel guilt. It's the avoidance of guilt. And so, spiritual narcissists will also say this as a form of dismissal. To dismiss your emotions, to avoid deeper conversation, which is really intimacy, connection. Right? To love is to connect. And those who control and live in fear can't connect. And they can't love. So they abuse spiritual terms and spiritual concepts to avoid connection. Another word for connection is love. Another word for love is truth. The truth is that we are connected to each other. Love. Narcissists live in the disconnection from this truth. In what is called separation. This frame of consciousness we call narcissism, where only the self exists. Only the stories the mind makes up exists. Well, not exists, is perceived. Only the stories the mind makes up is perceived. Only belief is perceived. So, there is such thing as right and wrong. This term can be used to teach a beautiful lesson, that it's okay to make mistakes. But that's the opposite of how narcissists will use this term. Because narcissists are all about making true mistakes, right? There's no mistakes, only lessons. That's a beautiful teaching, right? But for narcissists, there are mistakes and no lessons. It's the avoidance of growth, control.